Welcome back. This is part 3 of my Scott Peterson conclusion series where I am going through the big motives. So the big 3, Amber Frey, finances, and not wanting a child, that were the reasons that Scott Peterson allegedly killed his wife, Lacey, and their unborn son, Connor. And I am going through all the reasons why I think they don't hold water. So here we go. I'm on the second motive, which is that Scott didn't want to have a child. Now, it's amazing to me the number of people who keep saying this. And it's true. I don't think Scott wanted a child. I think that Scott had said numerous times, he told many people he did not want to have children. But then he agreed to. It takes 2 to impregnate a person. So Scott knew when he was having sex with his wife without birth control that there was a chance she was going to get pregnant. So my first question would be, wouldn't getting a vasectomy be so much easier than having to kill your wife? If Scott truly was hell-bent on never, ever having children with Lacey, he could have gone and gotten a vasectomy and probably not even told her. She never would have had to have known. They could have just always assumed that they just couldn't get pregnant. And when he finally had to tell her, oh yeah, by the way, I had a vasectomy 5 years ago, she would have been very disappointed. She would have gone to her mother. They both would have been very disappointed in Scott. But you know what? That's a hell of a lot better decision than having to kill your wife because you have remorse over the baby she's carrying. And we know Scott was willing to have a vasectomy because he offered that to Amber. Oh, he told Amber, I don't want to have biological children. Like, I am okay never having biological children with you. In fact, because Amber wasn't on any sort of birth control, he offered to go get a vasectomy so that he could never impregnate her. So my question is, why didn't he do that with Lacey? I just think it would have been so much easier to do that somewhere early in their marriage than to have to kill her later. But maybe that wasn't the reason at all. Because if you look through all of the testimony and you hear everybody talk about this, here's what we were able to find out from the testimony. Scott went to every single doctor's appointment with her, and all of the prenatal visits, he was with her. He changed his work schedule to coincide with her ovulation schedule. So as soon as she knew that she wanted to have a baby, as soon as they said they wanted to have a baby, he started changing his work schedule so that he could be there when she was ovulating. He personally built that nursery. So he put together all the furniture, he painted the walls, he chose the theme, he made the little life preserver thing on the wall. He wanted a nautical theme because he and Lacey had both been nautical type people. Scott had owned boats. He'd grown up near the water. Their first date was a fishing date. So they thought a nautical theme was the way to go. Scott very much was participating in the preparation of, they went to Lamaze classes together. And what's interesting is that Lacey told her mother everything. I think we can agree to that. She told her mother everything. So there's no testimony that Lacey ever went back to her parents and said, oh my God, Scott is so mad that I'm pregnant, or Scott is totally unwilling to have this baby, or he regrets the fact that I'm pregnant. There was never any conversation like that. In fact, Lacey had said, at first he didn't want to, but now he's willing to. Lacey's brother, Brent, testified in court that Scott was excited about having a baby. Sharon Rocha, Lacey's mother, confirmed on Larry King Live that Lacey told her that Scott had changed his mind about having kids. That all the stuff he'd said earlier about not wanting him, he changed his mind. And Sharon Rocha said that on Larry King. One of the couple's friends, a guy named Gary Reed, he and his wife were also expecting, and he testified that the couples did Lamaze class together. And that he also testified that he and Scott had been looking through a catalog. It was actually for Cabela's, which is like a outdoor hunting and fishing company. I think they're headquartered in the Midwest. I've seen them in like Minnesota and Iowa and places like that. But they were shopping in a Cabela's catalog, and they were actually looking in the kids section, and the 2 men were getting a kick out of like, hey, look, here's little baby camouflage stuff, and here's hunting and fishing outfits for kids. And they were playfully joking around about, wouldn't it be cool if our kids were running around in camo? I don't know that you do that if you're not excited about having a kid. Now, a couple of things that contradict this is, of course, Scott we know is a liar, and Scott is an actor, right? Scott is one of those narcissists who just wants everybody to think his life is perfect. So it is possible that every single thing he did was an absolute front because he didn't want people to know he didn't want a child, or he was too fucking chicken shit to tell his wife he didn't want a kid, and he was too scared to go do something else about it. There's no doubt in my mind that Scott's an absolute coward. So there's a lot of possibility that he went into this begrudgingly. I get that. But they weren't able to present in court any testimony where Scott was saying, ugh, I'm so pissed at her for getting pregnant, I'm going to do something about it. Like, no, there was never any animosity that anybody could prove that Scott had toward Connor. For those that say that Scott didn't want to have a child, let's also think that his first affair, the person that he's going to be with after his wife is exited from the situation, is Amber, who has a 20-month-old daughter at home. And Scott is already acting like a father to this child. He's strapping her into the car seat. He's going to pick her up from daycare after their second date. They go on a hike where Scott carries her the whole time. He feeds her in her high chair. He's taking care of her and nurturing her. And on more than one occasion, he tells Amber, I can't wait to be a family with you. And Ayana, I think is her name. And he says, I don't want biological children. I don't want natural children, but I will happily raise your child as my own. So again, if you don't want children, and you would stay the hell away from anybody who has one. You wouldn't immediately jump into a relationship with somebody who is a sole caregiver. And I know people are like, but being a stepdad is different. Don't tell that to the step-parents in my family. My stepmom's a better mom to me than my own mother ever was. So you cannot say that. Step-parents are just as dedicated as biological parents. But also, let me say this, Ayana's father wasn't in the picture. Amber was a single mom. She was 100% responsible for her own child. So this isn't a child that gets shipped off to the dad's house 3 nights a week. If Scott becomes a partner with Amber, if he moves in with Amber, if they live together, he lives with a child. And that is the very last thing that a man who doesn't want children, that's a deal breaker. You don't even date a woman with children if you don't want children. So I think this motive gets blown out of the water as well. Come back for more, because now I got to talk about the Amber motive.